The cold morning sun had barely risen when Adrian Cole realized he had only one breakfast sandwich left and no money until Friday. His stomach was hollow, his hands freezing, and his mind heavy with the weight of overdue rent, school fees, and the constant fear of failing his little daughter Mara. But when he saw the shivering woman curled beside the bakery wall, her clothes torn, her face pale with hunger, something inside him broke. Without thinking, Adrian walked over, knelt, and placed his only breakfast in her trembling hands. For a moment she just stared at him, as if kindness was something she hadn't seen in years. She whispered a faint thank you, her eyes filling with a mixture of disbelief and exhaustion. Adrian smiled weakly, pretending he wasn't starving, pretending his life wasn't falling apart, pretending he wasn't scared of the final eviction notice sitting on his kitchen table. He had no idea that this tiny act, this simple breakfast, would soon rewrite the very direction of his destiny. If you believe kindness comes back in unexpected ways, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Tales. Your support keeps these real-life inspired stories alive. Adrian's life was a routine storm of struggle. Every morning before sunrise, he cycled to the hardware store where he worked part-time, earning barely enough to keep the lights on. Afterward, he rushed to pick up Mara from her neighbor's apartment, trying to hide his exhaustion behind the smile she deserved. He cooked cheap meals, collected spare coins from the drawer, and prayed nobody knocked on the door asking for payments he couldn't make. Yet despite everything, Adrian always believed in quietly doing good. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier due to a sudden illness, and the grief had carved deep cracks inside him. Since then, he had lived with one promise: to become the kind of father Mara would someday be proud of. Even if the world was harsh, he vowed he wouldn't be. But lately, life seemed determined to test his resolve. Weeks passed after the morning he gave away his breakfast, and he didn't see the woman again. Sometimes he wondered if she was all right, or if life had swallowed her whole. He couldn't explain why the memory of her haunted him. The desperation in her eyes, the way her fingers shook, how she looked like someone who had once known better days but had fallen far. Yet Adrian had offered what little he had without expecting anything in return. One Thursday afternoon, while Adrian was sorting boxes at work, 2 sharply dressed individuals walked into the hardware store. Their presence immediately drew attention. They were out of place among the dusty shelves and old paint cans. After speaking briefly with the manager, they were directed straight to him. Adrian froze, assuming this had something to do with bills or debts, but their expressions were polite, almost warm. "Are you Adrian Cole?" the woman asked. He nodded cautiously, wiping his hands on his apron. "We represent the legal office of Miss Helena Ward," the man said. "She has been searching for you." Adrian's mind spun. He didn't know anyone named Helena Ward. He had never even heard the name. The female lawyer continued, "Our client was the woman you helped a few weeks ago outside Brightwood Bakery. She was in a medical and emotional crisis at the time. You gave her your breakfast when you yourself were struggling. She never forgot your gesture." Adrian felt his chest tighten. How is she?" "She's recovering," the lawyer replied with a gentle smile. "And she is a very wealthy businesswoman. She was walking the streets that morning after escaping from a highly stressful situation. She didn't want her family or staff to find her. But you found her. You helped her without knowing who she was." Adrian stood speechless. Words felt lost behind shock. The lawyers exchanged a knowing look before handing him a sealed envelope. "Miss Ward wants to thank you in a more meaningful way." Hands trembling, Adrian opened it. His vision blurred when he saw the numbers. It was a bank check, far more than he could ever earn in a year, enough to cover rent, debts, school fees, and even start a new life. "This must be a mistake," he whispered, overwhelmed. "I can't accept something like this." The male lawyer shook his head. "This isn't charity. This is gratitude." Miss Ward said your act restored her faith in humanity at a moment when she had lost all hope. She wants you to know that kindness has value, and that good people deserve good things too. Adrian couldn't stop the tears. Years of silent suffering, of swallowing pride, of fighting against the weight of loneliness. It all came crashing down. For once, something beautiful had returned to him, something unexpected, something life-changing. When he went home that evening, Mara ran into his arms as always, her tiny face lit with pure innocence. Adrian held her tighter than usual, feeling the universe shift around him. He told her they were going to be okay now, that better days were coming, days with warm meals, a safer home, and a future not built on fear. Mara didn't understand the details, but she smiled because her father was smiling. Over the next few days, Adrian used the funds wisely. He paid the overdue bills, secured a clean and comfortable apartment, bought fresh groceries, and even enrolled Mara in the art classes she had long dreamed of. For the first time in years, he walked through life without the weight of dread pulling at his shoulders. But the greatest change happened inside him. He realized that even when he had nothing, he had still chosen kindness, and that choice had returned to him multiplied. He began volunteering at shelters, giving out food, helping strangers, and telling anyone who would listen that kindness was never wasted, even when the world made it feel foolish. One sunny weekend, a letter arrived. It was from Helena Ward herself. She thanked him once again, and wrote that his breakfast that day had fed more than her stomach. It had fed her spirit, reminding her that humanity still had good hearts. She wished him and Mara a future filled with peace. Adrian placed the letter in a small wooden box with his most cherished keepsakes. It wasn't the money that changed his life. It was the proof that the smallest good deed could open doors he never imagined existed. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Tales. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people who need hope. Before you go, write in the comments, kindness always finds its way back. The end.